In the quiet hills of Lesotho, in a tiny village where donkeys outnumber cars and gossip spreads faster than wildfire, lived a poor village girl named Lerato. She was beautiful and fairly so. Skin like roasted mocha, eyes sharp and bright, and a smile that could melt an ice storm. But beauty in her world didn't pay for food. Her family was broke. Her father, once a respected man, had gambled away their last cow and was now in debt to half the village. One morning her father told her she had to marry a man she had never met, a man from the nearby village of Haramasimo. He's not rich, but he's hard-working. Her father mumbled, "He will take care of you." Lerato screamed. She begged. But her mother said softly, "Lerato, this is the only way. If you don't marry him, your father could be killed." So, just like that, the deal was done. Lerato was married off to a quiet, unassuming man named Thabuso. He wore secondhand clothes, smelled like wood smoke, and worked as a mechanic at least, that's what everyone thought. They lived in a modest rondavel with a broken door and no electricity. But here's where things get juicy. From the very first night, Lerato noticed something odd. Thabuso would sneak out late at night. He had a lockbox he'd never let her touch. He had perfect teeth like he had a private dentist, and sometimes she'd catch him on his old phone, speaking fluent French and Japanese. One night she followed him, and what she saw blew her mind. He drove a luxury SUV hidden deep in the forest. Under camouflage top, Lerato watched as he changed out of his village clothes into a tailored designer suit. He turned on a satellite phone and said, in perfect English, "Yes, I'll wire the funds. Close the deal in Zurich." Her mouth dropped. Funds, designer suit. She slipped, cracked a branch, and he saw her. Instead of freaking out, he sighed and said, "Lerato, we need to talk." She demanded answers. So, he gave them. Turns out Thabuso wasn't poor at all. He was the secret heir of a multi-billion-dollar mining empire that had operations across Africa. But he did run away from that world after his corrupt uncle tried to have him killed to steal the company. He faked his death, disappeared, and started living in Lesotho under a fake identity while secretly rebuilding his fortune in the shadows. His mechanic job front bugged, so he could spy on the people who were looking for him. That lockbox, filled with documents, diamonds, and international passports. Lerato was in shock, but also furious. "Why did you let me suffer? Why pretend to be poor?" Thabuso looked at her and said, "I needed to know if someone would love me for who I am, not what I have. And you chose me even when you hated the idea. You stayed." But Lerato wasn't done. She stormed back to the village, ready to tell everyone. But Thabuso begged, "If you expose me, they'll find me, and they'll kill both of us." Now here's the scandal. Lerato agreed to keep his secret, but she had demands. One, she wanted to be rich too. Two, she wanted revenge on everyone who had laughed at her for marrying a broke man. Thabuso smirked and said, "Done." What happened next was straight out of a movie. Within a month, Lerato returned to the village in a gleaming white Range Rover, wearing a designer dress and red-bottom heels. She told the village she'd inherited money from a distant aunt in Johannesburg. But she didn't stop there. She bought out the village chief's land, opened a luxury lodge, and had her father's debts erased overnight. People were stunned. Women who once mocked her now begged to know her secret. And just when people thought they had her figured out, the real drama hit. A private jet landed in Thabuso's uncle believing. Thabuso still did arrive to meet with government officials about expanding his mining empire into Lesotho. Now rebranded as Mr. Tisaboko, appeared at the conference with proof of ownership, bank records, and witnesses. The scandal went national. News broke, missing mining heir found alive in Lesotho, secretly married to village girl. The uncle was arrested. Thabuso reclaimed the empire. She became Lesotho's most photographed woman, appearing on magazine covers, interviewed on SABC and BBC, and running a foundation for girls in rural villages. But here's the twist no one saw coming. A year later, a journalist leaked emails revealing that Lerato had known Thabuso a secret way earlier than she let on. She had found his passport months before she followed it, and had been pretending not to know, waiting for the right moment to strike a deal. In other words, she played the player. The media called her Queen Cobra. Some hated her, some worshipped her. But one thing was certain, Lerato was no ordinary village girl. Well, he married a queen even if he didn't know it at first.